Is reserved. What purpose does the gentlelady from Michigan seek recognition?
Mr. Chairman, I rise in opposition to this amendment.
Gentlelady is recognized for 5 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, with nothing but the deepest of respect for my colleague from Alaska, and I even want to tell him I was afraid to stand up without getting clearance from one of your other good friends, the resident hunter in my household. But this amendment is yet another attempt to allow a state to override perfectly reasonable conservation policies on U.S. public lands. This amendment would prevent the Park Service from managing wildlife on these lands, even though they're owned by the American taxpayers, not by the state of Alaska. A particular concern is Alaska's policy of eradicating keystone predator species. Because of this policy, allowing wolves and bears to seek refuge on these Park Service lands may be the only way to keep them from requiring protection under the Endangered Species Act. I want to be clear about what this rule does and does not do. And it does not deny access to hunting. This rule does not reduce hunting in the national preserves in Alaska, period. In fact, it keeps existing hunting rules in place. What the rule does do is ban some of the most inhumane and ecologically damaging forms of hunting, things that a true sportsman would never do anyway. Let me share examples. This rule would prevent spotlighting black bears and shooting them and their cubs, babies, in their dens. It would prevent using bait to attract and kill bears. It would prevent killing wolves during their denning season and babies. And it would prevent the killing of caribou from a motorboat while under power. Yes, if a deer is swimming and you go after it at a boat, it would prevent that caribou who's swimming from being shot. If you think people should be allowed to do any of these, what I think are unsportsmanlike things, then this amendment's for you. But if you're like most Americans, you will be deeply disturbed by these practices and will join me in opposing this amendment. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.